Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got an awesome guest on today. He's a third generation American stone carver, stone letterer, and owner of the John Stevens shop in Newport, Rhode Island. And he was named a 2010 MacArthur Fellow. Please join me in welcoming Nick Benson. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Thomas. Good to be here.
You ready for 20 questions?
I am indeed ready.
Okay, here we go. Question one. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
So I am actually continuing on in a tradition of calligraphy and letter carving that was established by my grandfather in 1927. Sort of the interesting thing about what I'm doing is I'm really sort of perpetuating his take on the arts and crafts movement that he applied in the first half of the 20th century. And it's a really interesting run of work that's highly rewarding. And here I am doing it.
Great. And just a quick note for our audience, if you guys are interested in the top typography episodes, definitely check out the episode with Eric Speakerman. That was our most popular episode. So question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
I don't think it's necessarily some magic turn of phrase or any particular descriptive words. What it is it's the incredible body of physical knowledge that I've gained in the practice itself. I have carried on in this tradition of stone carving that is highly refined, and both my grandfather and my dad set the benchmark very high in terms of what they did and what I then aspired to achieve in order to fill those tremendously large shoes. So that all of that skill and all of that knowledge can't be articulated verbally. It's all in the visual appreciation of those particular objects.
Nice, I love that. Okay, question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
It's interesting growing up, being born into a family of artists, you know, my father, my grandfather, but my brother, my mother, my uncles, everybody had a very strong artistic bent. And so from the earliest age, I've always been immersed in a deep appreciation for aesthetics. And so I come to it really naturally. I think it's truly in the blood.
Mm.
And so I was drawn to this work. It really spoke to me. And as so many people do, sort of, you know, in my first years of college, I wasn't entirely sure that this was the work I was going to go into, but it only took a couple of years to realize, oh no, yes, this is really what I want to do with my life. And so you know, in making that decision and beginning work full-time with my father, it just was a seamless fit and you know, highly rewarding from the get-go.
Great. Some people struggle with number four, but the question is, what does your future look like?
This is a very complicated question because my future is intrinsically linked to the future of humanity. So as I make and I produce things in this long lineage of making established by not only my grandfather, but the earlier generations of the Stevens family who began the John Stevens shop,
Mm.
the appreciation and understanding for that work is slipping away a bit because there's a very strong disconnect between the physical world that people have been so very attached to for thousands of years and the evolution of the new digital realm.
Mm.
This is one of the greatest challenges that's happening today.
Mm.
So, and what that does is that throws a giant question mark into my future. Will people be able to truly understand what I'm doing without the context that used to exist 100 years ago, where so many people made things by hand that they immediately understood the refinement and the beauty of what my grandfather and truly my dad was doing? That's not so evident anymore. So that's one of the biggest questions that's out there regarding my future.
I love that. Okay, so number five we say is unique to this show. The question is, Let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
It's tremendously important because my family has very deep roots in this town, in the town of Newport, Rhode Island. And so all of my family, my relatives, cousins, all sorts of extended family have lived in this town. And there's a very, very tight community within our family. And again, so many artists, so many interesting, dynamic people among that group. The whole area is just sort of saturated with my family's vibe, for lack of a better word. And so, the shop is a funny little place because it hasn't changed a whole lot since when my grandfather was working in the place. So if an older folk, an octogenarian, comes in here and says, well, I used to know your grandfather, when I was a young boy, and they typically say the shop looks exactly the same, which I love that. It's preserved in its own way.
Great. Six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Work a little harder, to concentrate a little bit more on the long term. But that's what we would all say to our younger selves. And in truth, I had a heck of a great younger life. So I really don't regret too much. I think looking back upon my youth and my adult life and in this work, I'd be hard pressed to improve it.
Great. And what's a day in your life like?
It's pretty consistent, I have to say. So I wake up around 5 o'clock. I run into the shop and get here around 5:30. I spend about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours making art. That's one thing. Then I get to work at the John Stevens shop, which is working on commissions that have to do with the clientele of that place and the craft involved with all of that work. Then sort of toward the end of the day, I'll wrap it up, head home, have dinner with my family, and get up the next day and do it all over again. So it's pretty consistent.
Great. And eight is around lifelong learning. It's a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
Lifelong learning it's I think one of the most important things to consider in all of that is keeping an open mind. If you get a little too bogged down in a rut of doing and just sort of producing the same thing day in and day out, that becomes very, very stale and you're not being particularly creative. It's great to push yourself out of the comfort zone and really be open-minded to whatever's going on. And also look beyond the realms of the teeny little world that you live in. That's one of the things that I find so interesting about my artistic work. I'm trying to focus a lot on that.
Great. And I'm excited for number 9. The question is about tools. Can you talk about digital and analog tools?
That's just an incredibly huge topic. So, these are two very, very different worlds. And as I say, or if I didn't necessarily clarify earlier, I'm making art that is in contemplation of the disjunction between the old world of the physical and this new world of the digital realm. It's a massive, massive topic that is played out daily in a number of fields. And so, the fact that I'm picking up a broad edge brush and I may be dipping that in paint and producing capital letters that resemble very, very much the letters at the base of the Trajan column in Rome that were carved 2,000 years ago. There's a sort of immediacy to that practice, that actual execution that can leap through time. When I see one of those inscriptions in Rome, it's as if I'm standing over the shoulder of whomever painted it or carved it, and I'm transported immediately to that time. The digital realm is a different thing. They're very, very strange questions that I ask of it, and I'm absolutely fascinated by it. And I don't deride it. I think it's an incredibly interesting bit of evolution, but it asks many questions of humanity. And I can't really boil that down any further.
Great. And halfway number 10, how do you deal with work-life or life-work balance?
I got to work on that. Man, I work a heck of a lot, and I don't take a lot of downtime. I am working on it, and actually, my wife and I, in the past few years, have been taking a month off in the middle of the winter, and we'll head down to Savannah, Georgia, to just chill out, and that's wonderful. I used to be a lot more athletically active when I was younger. I was an avid windsurfer, but I've gotten so serious about my artwork that a lot of the free time that I used to do a broad variety of things, physically, I'm now making art. So it's, I don't know. It's tricky. As I say, I'm working on it.
Nice. And 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
I'd probably be acting. I'm sort of a clown. So, and I always enjoyed acting, and some of my very closest friends and I were, we're very extroverted guys, and we really enjoy humor. And so, I'd be acting in some form probably.
What would you not like to do with your career?
Again, getting sort of pigeonholed into a rut of the same drudgery and making the exact same thing over and over again is I think the worst possible direction to go, and I really do not want to go down that road. I don't think I will. I'm certainly working not to, and I think I'm ahead of that.
Great. And how about a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
A favorite word, quote, or sentence? There are many, and it's my colleagues in the shop and I often trot out a whole bunch of different lines that are very amusing. We have a really great time here at the shop, and so much of them are anecdotal that they wouldn't really translate. The work is hard, do the work. That's one of them, but it has connections to a story about my brother, which people don't really know. And there are a variety of pithy quotes and things. And every now and then I'll leap into, a line from Ozymandias, Percy Shelley's Ozymandias. There was a traveler from an antique land. There are a whole bunch of various and sundry lines. I can't pick out a single one and say, yes, this is, my go-to line. There are too many.
How about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Least favorite word or sentence? You can't do that. I think that's one of my least favorite phrases. You can't do that. And my response typically is, watch me.
You're choosing one word to describe yourself. What word do you choose?
I don't know. I don't have the perspective. I don't have the objective perspective on myself to give you a word that would describe myself. I'd have to pass that along to somebody else. You're going to have to ask somebody else that question.
Nice. What keeps you up at night?
Oh, gosh, so many things. I'm awfully hard on myself, and so there are all sorts of different things that I worry about. Not measuring up to my predecessors, and not feeling as though I'm worthy. All of those quintessential moments of self-doubt that I think so many people struggle with. I don't think I'm particularly atypical in that way.
Great. So final stretch here. What's a dream you're chasing?
It's funny. I think that shifts. So as I produce this new and strange artwork, I'm very, very keen to have that work understood by others, not as a sort of single statement of this is an artistic takeaway moment, and there's a sort of single word or two to sum up what I'm doing in my artistic work is asking really, really large questions, existential questions that hopefully open up conversation about these complicated topics. And I want more and more to communicate that with people. That's a big dream of mine, but I don't know. It's making art is a complicated process.
What inspires you?
So many things. just so very many things. You know, people inspire me, you know, objects I see inspire me, all sorts of different things. I mean, you know, just looking out the window and looking at the beautiful trees as summer rolls along, and just looking at nature, you know, one of my phrases that I'm constantly saying is nature wins again. You just look at nature and it's hard to beat in terms of its beauty. There are just countless things that inspire me.
Any advice you'd like to share?
Get busy.
Great. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How can our listeners follow you, and what's our call to action?
Okay, so I'm fairly active on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is at NIXBENSON, at Nix Benson. I enjoy Instagram, but not in the way so many other people use it. I kind of use it just like as a simple means of communication and sharing craft and product and technique and things like that. So, and I'm always happy to interact with other people who are excited about these things. Call to action. I don't know. I'm at a loss there. So again, I don't have anything very specific I can trot out on that front, other than the similar lines earlier of, you know, if you want it, go get it.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for being on today. You know, you're such a kind of key piece of the body of the history of type that we're trying to kind of put together here. So it's such a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Take care.